What's going on, everyone? Welcome into another episode of Capturing the Game. It's the Game Within the Game podcast featuring me, Desmond Jones, and Brady. Today I'm flying solo. But before we get started, I want you to know that Capturing the Game is sponsored by Capture Sports Agency, where our CEO is Chantel Smith Jones. She's the one that always makes everything possible. So a big shout out to her. But today we got a legend in the building. We got a legend that's about to be on these microphones and in your ears today. She is a Fort Wayne native. She is a former WNBA player, and she's also currently in the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame. She is no other than Leslie Johnson. How are you doing today, Leslie?
I'm doing fantastic. I love the intro. Thank you so much. I was about ready to take off my outer clothes and run out on the floor. That's how excited I was at that intro. So thank you very much for all those wonderful compliments.
No problem. Look, I think every time I do these intros, I get better and better. So I'm ready to run out to the court with you. So. but man, Leslie, can you go ahead and tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Yes, my name is Leslie Johnson, and as you said, I'm a Fort Wayne native, proud Fort Wayne native. I end up coming up pretty early into the fold of basketball, mostly because my father, back in those days, you were either a Laker fan or a Celtics fan, Bird and Magic. And I would always hear my father screaming and hollering in another room that he was kicked out from the family room where all of us was, because my mother was just say, would you just, it's too much noise. It's too much noise. So he would always relocate. And one day I was just like, what is all this screaming for? But anyway, I ended up going to see what it was all about. And I really just fell in love with the game. And so early on, I basically, just started playing outside, playing wherever I could. And, but I ended up starting off at, Northwood Middle School to Northrop High School. And then I ended up playing for Purdue University. And eventually I transferred to Western Kentucky. And after transferring to Western Kentucky, my journey landed me in the WNBA for the Washington Mystics in 1998. I ended up playing another 5 years professionally, pretty much all over the world. That was one of the things I'm most proud of, actually, is my time there. I ended up playing in Israel. I played in Portugal, Spain, Greece, Turkey, South Korea. And when I played in those countries, I had the opportunity to play against other countries. So I would end up traveling to like Italy, France, Britain, you pretty much name it. I got a chance to travel the world. And basketball carried me to a lot of wonderful places.
That's so good to hear, especially when it's your own Fort Wayne natives. Like, you love to hear the stories about people being successful and be able to go out and travel the world. What was it like playing in a W back in '98? Like,
Well, I don't think there's any way I could go straight to playing in the WNBA without mentioning how I got there.
of course,
And that part is, to me, the epic piece of my career, because when I was at Purdue, everything was great as a freshman. I ended up being an All-American as a freshman. I ended up being National Freshman of the Year. I became the first freshman in Big Ten history to be first team All Big Ten. And we went to the Final Four, something Purdue had never done. So I had this epic freshman year. And then my sophomore year, things just flamed. Like, it just didn't work out. There's a lot of variables that came with that. But I transferred to Western Kentucky. But that experience, I really tanked when I transferred. But I built my way back up at Western Kentucky. And I learned from my experiences when it didn't work out. So what ended up happening was my senior year at Western Kentucky, I had a house full of people, media included, and everybody. There was an article in the USA Today that was mentioning the best of the best from draft camp. And they were all predicting no later than the second round, Leslie Johnson would go. And and I was excited. Everybody's excited. And first round went, my name didn't get called. Second round, I said, oh. Third round, I was like, what just happened here? So I didn't get drafted. Oh my goodness. I did not get drafted. Didn't see it coming. I was an All-American my senior year. And it was pretty bad. But the reason I gave you that story about how things didn't work out at Purdue is because I decided I'm not tanking, not this time. I am going back to the gym. And that morning I got up about 5 o'clock in the morning after not being drafted, got back to work. And the season was about a month and a half in, and my agent was still at it. I ended up going home. My apartment was over at West Kentucky. It was actually the last day of my apartment lease. And I went home and I pull up and my parents start running after me. And I'm like, they're usually not this excited to see me. What in the world is going on? But anyway, I pull up and my mom was the first one. She's running out. My dad runs out. He's like, Leslie, have you heard? And I'm like, no, heard what? And they're saying, the WNBA called. I'm like, why? What's up? And they's like, tomorrow you fly out to go play for the Washington Mystics. So
Wow.
literally, like one day I was playing at the local Y in Western Kentucky. I was preparing always to still go play professionally overseas. And the next day I was flying out to play against the LA Sparks at the Staples Center. So
Wow.
playing in the WNBA, when that happened, of course, I just pretty much dropped like, wow, because I knew that I kept the faith and I knew that I kept on working. And I knew I was not going to let not being drafted deter me, and I was going to continue. And so that's what ended up happening when they called me. And of course, when I arrived Staples Center, holy, 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 holy.
Yeah.
I am playing at the Staples Center in Los Angeles, where so many legends have played.
So
And
many.
and I think out of all my experiences, when I end up playing in Madison Square Garden, there's something about Madison Square Garden. And then when you walk in and then you see like they got all these pictures of like who has performed here, and you see Elvis Presley, you see Michael Jackson, you see Prince, and then you think, and I'm getting ready to perform on this basketball court. This is that moment where it hits you that I made it. And for a long time, uh, I put it this way: I'm so incredibly grateful that I made it. I wanted to play
Yeah.
longer, and that's a whole nother story. But making it, getting a chance to play, against like Lisa Leslie, getting to know a lot of players to this day that I call my sisters, the people that I met, the experience was awesome. It was awesome. It stays with me. Like I said, to this day, going into the 25th year of the WNBA, and we still have this sisterhood, and it's pretty astounding how many of us stay well connected.
That's the importance, that's when you're part of a league, you're part of not only just a league, but you're part of family. And especially celebrating 25 years of the league, I'm sure there was plenty of moments in which people thought that the league wasn't going to really make it. There's times that we thought the league was going to flame out, but
We thought
um
the league was gonna flame out, and we were the ones playing. So no, don't hesitate to say that. I see you was a little nervous
yeah,
to say, well, we wasn't sure. We didn't know.
yeah,
And
yeah.
then, the funny part is always when I even talk on the WNBA, I say, okay, when I was growing up, my dream wasn't to play in the WNBA because it didn't exist.
Right.
It didn't exist. And every professional women's basketball team league in America till then, it didn't make it always that word, it flamed out. So I didn't have this dream for per se the WNBA that these young athletes uh, have the opportunity to dream on now. And I think that was what drove us. That's what drove us to keep the league there. Every piece of us, those that played one season, two
Hmm.
seasons, three, those that like everybody wanted to be a part of the process. If everybody knew how important it was to put our egos and our emotions aside, and whatever we
Hmm.
do, keep this league going. Get out,
Yeah.
promo, talk to the community. because we it was always important that the league continue. So yeah, we didn't think that the league would make it because our examples were that they never did. I mean,
Right.
2 years, 3 years, one teams leagues would just fold. So to be so I, this week, well, next week, what's going to happen on the 25th year? Um, it really has brought out a lot of emotions in women's players who have had an opportunity to play. Because if you were part of that new beginning, in which I was, because the league started in '97, I played
Yep.
in '98 and or '96, and when you know you were one of those first pieces that were trying
Yeah.
to put it together, it's very special. It's very special, and it means a lot to me to know that I was part of that puzzle that that still breeds so much opportunity for women in sports.
Yeah. I mean, I mean, you talked about it like but one of the things growing up that I always heard mentioned that was when David Stern passed away, the WNBA was going to fold thing because that was his
Hmm.
baby. That was his, the one of the reasons why the league started was because of him. And
Yes.
once he passed away, I thought they thought that the league was going to go away. But I'm definitely grateful to see the league still here. And I know as well as you are, as well as many
Yeah.
other sisters, and
Yes.
that's been
And
involved in
again,
the game.
and piggybacking off of what you said with David Stern, it was definitely a scary time for the league. But at the same time, what I've witnessed, and you have too, uh, that's been a privilege, is to watch how many NBA players have kind of put us on their
Hmm.
shoulders and said, "Oh no, you won't. No, you will
Hmm.
not." Including the greatest of all time. I know some people are cringe. I don't care. Kobe. Kobe was one of the biggest supporters of the WNBA, and
Yeah.
players like him, Dwayne Wade, that's like advocates like don't treat Candace Parker like that. If you do, you're gonna hear from an army, you know.
Hmm.
And this is the reason why we continue to exist is because we have partners and other people that are all around the world who get it. That is just not going to have it. They're like, even if the money isn't where it should be, we're just going to keep fighting. We're going to keep on
Hmm.
making sure that it exists because we now have girls and we now have all these girl dads and
Right.
the men are getting it now as much as the women have for years. So I think that we're in good hands. I think that the league is here to stay. And I look forward to this new generation, which has been something else to watch.
It is. It is. There's a lot of, nice upcoming players in the W that's looking to take the throne from the people that's still in the game, like your Tarazis, your Sue Birds, like the people that's
Yeah.
like the older generations that have been there, like pretty much the whole time the league has been in existence.
Well,
So I'm
isn't that
looking forward to it.
that's the beauty of sports, right? Remember
Yeah,
we all remember when Kobe tried to take Jordan. It's
I
like,
do. I
I mean,
do.
I mean, this is the thirst for excellence, and
Yeah.
but I think that if you could get it in the head or interview any of those players, they will always say, they want it, but at the same time, it's all about respect, and they respect the ones who created it and kept it
Hmm.
here for them. So we're all in one big melting pot for sure.
Yeah. Oh man. So I remember watching like Kobe play, and people always make the comparisons to MJ and Kobe, all the time. So I was one of those ignorant fans growing up that didn't know much about. I didn't really appreciate Kobe as much as I did until later in his career when I didn't realize the stuff that he put together, the what he his mentality that he embraced and took on. So I was definitely one of those Kobe haters
Late
earlier in
bloomers
his career. Yeah, and became a late
that
bloomer. So
evolved.
yeah, but it is good to see many NBA players support the league. I know a lot of the local teams that's that's close to the teams supports the W as much as they possibly can by showing up in the games or even wearing the gear, the orange hoodies, the black orange hoodies with the the orange logo on it. Just seeing the WNBA gear more often is something that I'm excited to see going forward.
Yeah, and once again, it's not all about Kobe. Of course, there's other players who
Mm-hmm.
did their part contributing, but he's
Mm-hmm.
the iconic figure that wore that orange sweater,
Yep.
and it's now a thing. It's a brand. Like everybody wants that orange sweater, and I wish that more familiar faces in the NBA, like Steph Curry, and they would get out and wear different sweaters for the WNBA, and they all do their share. But
Right.
I'm also looking forward to that moment when a different sweater will be just as iconic as that orange one. And just keep
Mm-hmm.
this league, just keep us in the conversation, so that the
Yeah.
league can continue.
Absolutely. I'm ready for it to expand.
Yeah.
I'm ready. I'm ready for new teams that enter the fold. So.
Yeah. I mean, everybody look forward to that. One thing I will share, that when I played in '98, uh, it was, I believe at that time there was only 9 teams. I could be wrong, but I know there was no more than 10. And if you think about that just for a minute, just take a pause and think about what I'm telling you. And now when I look back at how special that must have been to
Yeah.
play on 10 teams, a roster of 11. And we're talking about, at one point, Cheryl Miller was thinking about coming back and playing. We were talking about some of the greatest when Cheryl Cooper came back, who were all overseas. All of these. Not Cheryl Swoops, and Cynthia Cooper. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Cynthia
Yeah.
Cooper, Cheryl Swoops. All of these, the legends. They all come back and play in the league. And now you're this one player coming out of West Kentucky trying to
Right.
find your way in. And so to make the league in '98, we have lots of internal debates about this. Uh,
Mhm.
you was a player. You were a
Yeah.
player.
You had to
Let's
be.
understand it. Understand it. You could play because the competition was fierce. You had players, like I say, who were playing 8, 19 years overseas, uh, just coming back, and all in the same, like I said, melting pot of college players who's just trying to find their way in. And then you got 10 teams. I think it finally grew to like 11 or 12. And regardless, it's not many teams. And can you imagine the NBA trying to squeeze the talent of the world onto 12 teams in the NBA? That's what we do every day, in the WNBA. So it is an elite uh, league to be a piece of once you actually make it in, because it's very difficult to be able to put your name in that category that you played in the WNBA.
Oh, absolutely. Especially when you paint it from that perspective, when you're trying to fit all this talent on this many teams.
That many times. And yeah, trust me, it was my chagrin. It's still my chagrin. But when I played, when you're looking ahead, and I'm reading the newspaper, and I'm seeing where all these wonderful icons that I looked up to has now decided to enter the draft. I'm going, oh, well, that's one less chance I might end
Yeah.
up with, because it was so much talent trying to just make their way back home. And so for me to enforce my way in to the league, and,
Hmm.
and be determined that I'm going to make it one way or the other. I'm going to make it. And another thing, I definitely have to add that my dream was always to play professional basketball. And if I did not play in the WNBA and I settled in playing professionally overseas, that was the initial dream anyway. So I was
Right.
always very content. If I didn't play in the league, I knew that the money for women in basketball, and actually women in sports, has always been in Europe or in other countries. And that's still very unfortunate, but it's still the case. I will share very briefly an experience that I had when I went to Dubai, on one of the connections that I have. And I went there on the worker camp, and And when I was there, they asked me if I could connect them to any WNBA players to come play in Dubai. So without experience, I said, well, I can definitely give you a couple names. And so I made some contacts to some friends I have who are coaches and are part of the league. And we were end up able to bring a couple players over there. Well, I asked, what did they want to play this particular player? And they said, well, you'll have to let her know that we cannot give out any more than $30,000 for this 1 month. And I thought, what?
one one month.
What? We've grown to 30,000. So, I continued to do my research because I knew that Diana Taurasi 1 year didn't play in the WNBA, and she went to Russia, and she ended up with a $1 million deal. But the deal was attached to you won't play in the WNBA and get hurt. And it was a big controversy. And she was like, I'm going to Russia. I'm going to Russia because we don't get that kind of money in the WNBA.
Yeah.
But with that said, the overseas market for women's basketball has always been there. It's always been steady, and it's been great to see and know that contracts have only expanded for women's basketball players. And I also learned, to any other female players that are out there that are not basketball, but maybe into volleyball, I also learned that volleyball is paying very well for women to go play professional volleyball overseas. So for all those girls that are in love with volleyball, there is a dream that's international for you to reach.
Yeah, that's good that you mentioned, because I know not too long ago we just had a interview with a volleyball coach. She was with Cal State Fullerton, but now she's a transition, since we've recorded an episode where she's a transition to, I think it's New Orleans. So I mean, volleyball, just women's sports in general, is interesting to really talk about because it's never really the focal point, or there is always definitely some discrepancies between the men's sports and the women's sports, and I always find it super interesting that overseas they get treated this way, but here in America it's like they always play second fiddle to everything.
Yeah, it's a very interesting dynamic. When I did play overseas, I've never. It was the best I've ever been treated in my life. Wherever I went, it was full respect, full love. The fan base was tremendous. The love shown was great, and we get that here as well. But I do think that there is an added piece that they just. And I say this, and I hope it's not controversial, but it feels as if there's just a little bit more respect for the game that women play over there.
I can believe that, because I can believe that, because I know for me growing up, we wasn't watching WNBA highlights. It was always the NBA highlights.
Yeah.
If honestly, if growing up, if like a whole team of WNBA players walked by, I bet you no one in the crowd could recognize or even tell you who they were.
Right.
Right.
And
But I'm sure
you're not alone. When my to your viewers who didn't know this, they call me Baby Barkley. My nickname was the Baby Bark. I was the Charles Barkley of women's basketball, and that nickname stayed with me to this day. But my comparisons were always against men players. They were always against NBA players. There was never a female that they would ever reach out and say, you play like this female. You could all of our comparisons. We had a woman that played in the league. We call her Lady Bird. It was always to the men because that's what we saw. And when I did grow up watching basketball on TV, I do recall that the only time I had an opportunity to watch women's basketball was the Final Four. And it was always the greatest moment of the year for me. Yeah. And that's when, USC constantly was in, and Louisiana Tech and Texas. And they had a couple players that were post players that were big and strong and they moved well. But there was one particular player who played for Louisiana Tech by the name of Venus Lacey. And Venus Lacey, she did it for me. It was the first time I could say, yes, it's okay to be big, strong, and a woman, and be, use what I got to get what I want on the basketball court. It's okay to
Mm-hmm.
do this. And I really struggle with that. We won't have enough time to go into all of that, but gosh, self-esteem in girls,
Mm-hmm.
my self-esteem was horrible growing up because
Mm-hmm.
um, there was no one to compare me to. I didn't see
Yeah.
it, and there was nobody that was as big as I was. Uh, and like I said, trying to play on the court, but imagine that bigness just walking around school.
Mm-hmm.
It was awkward for so many. And, I had my share of people making fun of that. But
Mm-hmm.
with that said, I learned if it had not been for Venus Lacey, watching her in the Final Four and the fact that the name Barkley just stayed with me, those were the two things that really carried my self esteem. That it was
Yeah.
okay to be not normal, the normal
Yeah.
size, extremely, petite. And I was a tomboy. It's okay, just be you and do
Mm-hmm.
your thing. And so I those were the examples I had, and I'm glad I had them, because often I wonder if my story would even exist, or would have had flamed out in middle school when I was just being made fun of.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's a whole. You're right. That's a whole another topic in itself.
Yeah.
Like just your whole self esteem, because you're as a ball player, especially if you're a woman that that's taller or is bigger than the average female. Especially if you're a hooper, you gonna get make fun of. You gonna look different. You may not fit in with the rest of the females that's in the crowd. It's a different
Yeah.
world, and it's not it's
Yes.
not there's not too many that you can, not another friend probably in the facility you can reach out to, because they can't identify with you.
Yeah, and that's why I have taken the time. I have friends and different, because I've shared my story often and openly, my entire story of my life, because I know how many people secretly are listening and clinging to every word of that.
Hmm.
Because and Like I said, I take the time to mentor to some girls. Some parents have gotten me in contact with their daughters, and I try to lift them up, and it's still prevalent to this day. And I would have thought that it would be so much better now with social media and so many talk shows that we're talking about this subject. But then turns out I'm like, wow, is it actually even worse? Because these girls are being bullied online, and it's a constant war for girls and women. But everybody has a story. Everybody has things that they have to overcome, and that's what I try to always teach. It's just empowerment. Make sure at no point you think, don't ever become a victim. There's
Hmm.
nothing worse or nothing more sad than someone just saying, all the obstacles in their way and how hard it is and how tough it's going to be and
Yeah.
nobody's giving
Yeah.
me a chance. I'm like, you kick the door open. You kick the door open. That's your job. You make sure that they see you. And that's always been the Leslie Johnson way, And even when I played basketball, if you watch me for 10 seconds, you know that. Like,
Right.
I didn't go up, I took you with me. Because it was important to me to send a message that this is
Yeah.
my lane.
Yeah.
So this is the same attitude I try to keep for life. Like when obstacles come our way, you know, you just plow through it. And you're not gonna win every single battle. If you,
Mhm.
hang in there and you keep working, and you don't put up with, the resistance, you'll win the war.
Yeah.
It's just all about how much fight you have in you.
I, that's a life lesson right there. That's definitely a life lesson right there. So when you was playing in the W, so how did you transition to overseas?
So the WNBA is even when they created the WNBA, it was strategically set up in the summer months,
Mm-hmm.
and they did not want to compete with the overseas market. And to this day, that's exactly why we continue to play in the summer, because
Mm-hmm.
every single, well, not everyone, but probably 98% of all WNBA players, as soon as the season is over, they're on a flight to play overseas.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you can't really have one without the other. And the reason I say that is because if you don't play in the WNBA and you try to play professional basketball overseas, you will make one amount of money, one certain amount of money. But if you are WNBA, Leslie Johnson, then your market value will increase. So it's always important that you still try to play in the WNBA. And if you can become a star in the WNBA, and then like the Diana Taurasi contract that I mentioned, you now all of a sudden, your market value, you end up with $1 million deal. And it's because what they see on TV. So they go together. They fit hand in hand. They go hand in hand and they fit like a glove between playing in the WNBA, playing professionally basketball overseas. Um, there's one of the biggest gripes that we have in from the WNBA players is that we really don't get much time to ourselves. You go from the WNBA, and if you're
Yeah.
lucky, you can get your agent can hold you off for a month before you end up overseas, if you're lucky.
Mm-hmm.
And then you play all year, and most of the players, probably at least half the players, literally, there some of them are flying in from the country that they played in straight to camp. And so there's just not a lot of time in between for their own life. But we know that our careers are short, and we know that there's only a small window that we have to make as much money as we can make in the small time that we have. So everybody goes and do it. They go WNBA straight overseas. Like I said, it's designed that way, and so it's not one against the other. And some people go, "Oh, do you want to play over there or play over here?" They connect.
Okay. Yeah, I know earlier in one of our podcast segments that we had, I talked about the transition, especially this year in particular, because when they did the WNBA draft, it was in April. Trans camp start like the following week, and then the season started like next month. Like that's crazy. And then for
It's
some of
rapid.
them, yeah, and then for some of them, they will be going right into, just as you mentioned, overseas basketball as soon as the season is over with. And that's a crazy transition. It's like the levels of competition, it gets so much better. Some of the players probably not even didn't really get a chance to even work on the game to be prepared for the W and overseas basketball, just because of that transition was so short right now.
Yeah, that it's a short period in between, and it's just at a rapid pace. And this is the challenge of women's sports, that we just don't have the same luxuries
Hmm.
that the men get. And but hey, that's part of it. It's like it makes me, and I hope it helps your viewers respect this even more. How strong these women are. That they play all season. They play in the WBA. They give it their all. They give themselves, if they're lucky, a week time with their family, and back overseas they go for 7, 8, 9 months. Nobody can speak their language. You're somewhere in Bulgaria, and it's just you, and nobody else is speaking English, but you get that contract and you're getting your money. And then you got maybe a week, sometimes, like I said, but nothing in between, and you're back in the WNBA. And then you start all over next year. And then it's
Yeah.
like, there's really not a lot of breaks in between, but that's our sacrifice. These are the things that women have done to keep the league in existence. All of us
Hmm.
could complain. All of us could have complained and said, you know what, bump even the WBA. And the reason we could have
Yeah.
said that is because our money
Y'all was
was
making so much more.
sometimes, yeah, two
Yeah.
times, three times, four times overseas. And then we could say, I'm tired. I just played 7, 8 months over here, and this is where the bulk of my money is coming from. You know, So I'm just going to take a summer break. We could have done that. A lot of players could have done that. But to know that we're 90 something percent, 97, 98% say, I'm tired, but it's worth it. I'm going to make the vast majority of my money over here. But even though I'm making a fraction of that in the league, I'm going to continue to play in the league because we need girls to continue to dream. And that's what they're doing. That's really what they're doing. The WNBA salaries have increased. I'm glad to see that, but they have not increased much, even from 25 years ago, when you think about how many other markets increase, and teams over, when you look at their, I just remember when it was such a big deal when I think it was Glenn Robinson got like $100 million deal out of college and they ended up on the But I remember, if you think about it, it wasn't that long before that where Scottie Pippen only made like $3 million.
That's so true. True.
It was only like 5 years, in between.
Yeah.
But the money increased so more for the men. The contracts grew so substantially. And then you look at the WNBA contracts and, a few more thousand that's been added per month than it was 10 years before, And but we don't complain. And that's the beauty of women and girls all around the world that are not athletes at all. We just do our job and we just want respect, and we want we continue to fight, but at the same time, we don't make excuses, and we just got to keep fighting until eventually we're getting the things that we desire. So that's been our story, throughout history, and I'm sure it's going to continue. I'm sure of that.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. What was it like playing in the countries that you played in? I know you played in Greece, Israel, South Korea, Portugal. You've been in so many countries. I'm sure you know a lot of languages by now.
Well, I would learn words. So let's put it that way.
Yeah.
I would learn certain words that I could add to my vocabulary. I was definitely, I definitely did not speak, the language, but every country came with its own challenges, and every country came with a different culture. So with that said, like when I played in Greece, that was my first time eating Mediterranean foods. So, well, as we call it here, gyros, and, and for me, it took some getting used to, because I grew up with the pizza and the cheeseburger. So all of a sudden, I'm eating this Mediterranean foods, and but now I've just grown to love it. Like I can't find a Greek restaurant quick enough, because I lived there for almost 2 years, and then when I went to play in Israel, I will always tell anyone who will listen that before you leave this earth, try to make a trip to Israel, the Holy Land, because it is that when I lived in Israel, it was bigger than basketball. It was so much bigger than basketball. It was like I was on a flight, and imagine waking up to hearing the people over the intercom say, "Welcome to Jerusalem." You go, "What? I'm in Jerusalem." I mean, imagine that life. Yeah. And sometimes I'd be driving in my car and I'd see exit to Nazareth. Exit Bethlehem.
That's crazy. That's crazy to even think about. You see exit signs from these historic, iconic, places in the Bible.
Yeah, it's like exit, and one time, I got out the car, it's like, I just got to do this because, my faith. And, I'm just driving along the Jordan River. I'm like,
oh my goodness.
The Jordan River, the place where Jesus was baptized. Okay, I'm gonna at least put my finger in, my hand in, my feet in, something. So anyway, so I had so many experiences that were so much bigger than basketball. It's something so surreal to know that you're in these places. Greece, I was in the Salonika, which is basically cut from the Thessalonians, in the word. And you live in these cities and you go, wow, I'm living, the Bible story. I'm walking some of the same places that the greatest iconic figures of the Bible ever walked, and I'm living I'm living it. And so, you just kind of say, and it's what's kept me, I just say,
Mm-hmm.
my goodness, I just thank God for the opportunities that I had, and being extremely grateful as I was. It's really what kept me through all of my failures, because you will have some.
Mm-hmm.
When I get to speaking, I always talk about my failures, and how we should embrace our failures, because that's what makes us. And it's not easy. We don't like it. It hurts.
Mm-hmm.
We cry. It
Yeah.
breaks. And some people get to the place of the breaking point. But I challenge everyone to look at things a little bit differently. I tell them, love your failures, because
Mm.
every time you fail, there's something that you are going to get from that failure that is going to make you better. It is
Mm-hmm.
going to teach you what not to do.
Yeah.
It
No,
is,
that's right.
and so I've had my share. But
Yeah.
the difference between those who can get to the WNBA, or make it in corporate America, to me has always been those who don't collapse when they fail. you know
Mm.
we all could give up, when something doesn't go right, but that's never been my story. I'm a
Yeah.
fighter. I will always fight. I'm a survivor. There's nothing that I go through that I don't believe eventually I'll overcome. And I just always have had that mentality, and that's what really separates me from, I think, a lot of other athletes. Someone once asked me, what is the secret to making it to the league, and I told them, that you have to be willing to grind it out through your failures.
Mm.
That's the secret ingredient, that you can handle failure,
Yeah.
uh, uh, and that you'll use it to make you better. And I could say that for games that you lose. I
Mm-hmm.
can say that for games that it was you that lost, that missed the last second shot. And some people will actually, and I see NBA players right now who don't want the ball in the last 10
Yeah.
seconds. They don't want the ball because they remember what they did the last time with 10 seconds was
Yep.
on the clock. And I think the difference between some who have it and some who do not is that even if they miss that last shot, I know players who will miss the next shot in the last 10
Mm-hmm.
seconds, and they'll still ask for it again the next
Yep.
game with the last 10 seconds on the clock.
Yep.
And then it'll be that shot that they make, and everybody will tell them that they're a hero, and they'll have to remind them, remember when I missed the other two? I won't miss
Mm-hmm.
this one, you know? And so this is how this is what makes the greats the greats. I'm a firm believer is that those who can handle their failures and turn those failures into motivation and eventual success.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. You know, that's something that I've try to live by. It's we don't. I always often don't look at it as failures. Often look at it as lessons. I growing up, I played baseball like for my high school and part of my college career. So we hit the ball.
You.
Say we hit the ball. 3 out of 10 times. That's on a 3 out of 10 times. That's an F. That's failure. That's 30%. But 30% in baseball is going to the Hall of Fame. So
Yeah.
it took a different mentality to really play
Wow.
baseball, and
Wow.
and I just took that approach with me with everywhere I go. I'm an engineer by trade, so a lot of times I'm always just throwing stuff at the wall, expecting, either some type of failure, but expecting to learn through that failure. Okay, understanding why something happened, and just try a different approach next time. So,
Yeah.
it's just a
Yeah.
matter of
That's a thank you for
grind.
sharing that. That's a
Yeah,
total different perspective. That's true.
yeah,
In basketball, our percentages have to be much higher than that.
yeah,
So, like you said, that was one perspective. I'm going to keep that one with me because, you're just not going to win them all. You're not going to hit
mm-hmm,
them all. You're not going to make them
yeah,
all.
yep.
You're
That's
just not
exactly
going to.
right. Yeah, I know I didn't. Oh man.
But
I
you were
know I do.
successful. You were
Yeah,
successful.
I have my moments. I have my moments, that's for sure. Oh man. But what's some of the biggest advice that you can give to female athletes that are trying to either make it overseas or in the W right now?
Of course, there's different levels of advice I would give depending on the age. I think that it's very important to start early, and that message is probably more for the parents than it is sometimes for the kids. You know, you got to start early. I mean, it's getting earlier and earlier and earlier. Even for me, I'm like, whoa, we have leagues that are kids are playing at 5. You know, and you think you're doing something. You got your
Right.
9-year-old daughter in the AUs. Well, she's 4 years behind. You know, if you think about it. And so the earlier you can get your kids involved, the better chance that they will have to go further in their career.
Mm-hmm.
But there's different levels of advice. When they're young, I give a lot of advice that more mental advice to hang in there, to work hard. Don't be consumed with TV. Don't be consumed with social media as they become teenagers. Don't be consumed by all of these things that are taking away from your focus. And one thing I say a lot is does anybody ever make you get on Facebook? To these kids, and they like, what? And I'm like, yeah, did your mother ever come up to you and say, have you logged into Snapchat today? I haven't
Yeah.
seen where you logged into Snapchat. And they look at me like, what? And I say it in ways to make things resonate, because I tell them, we don't make you get on Snapchat, but you're on it all day. We don't make you get on Instagram and you wake up with it. You wake up with that phone in your hand. You 24/7, you're looking for your cell
Mm-hmm.
phone. Imagine if 24/7 you wake up, instead of grabbing your phone, you go outside and you shoot. What a
Big
player
difference.
you would be. And they say, oh no, I do play. And I'm like, you are, but what's your level of commitment? It says a lot. If you're on the phone 70% of your day
Mm-hmm.
and every other day you play basketball, it's
Mm-hmm.
telling a story about you,
It does.
and what you're saying versus what you really, your level of commitment. And so when I put it that way, they almost always like, yep, you got me. You
Mm-hmm.
got me. I'm like,
I,
nobody makes you do these things. So we should
yep.
not have to make you play practice. We should not have to make you. If the key is being self motivated, if you love it, you desire it, we should not have to stand over you and make you get your workouts in. And
Mm-hmm.
again, as they develop and they become older, 17 to 18, and I'm like, uh, I shouldn't have to tell you to go run,
Mm-hmm.
to lift weights. You know, this is what you have to do, or you're going to be a step behind someone else. These are
Mm-hmm.
just the facts. So if I have to constantly tell you these things, then you're telling me something about you, and
Yeah.
your level of will and desire to be your best. Uh, of course, if you don't, like I said, your family and me, we'll love you, but this is your dream. I'll always
Mm-hmm.
remind them, this is your dream,
Mm-hmm.
and you can make of it what you put into it. So I think that for me, that's the main thing, that I just communicate how much they have to be dedicated, how much they have to be willing to work, not just in practice, but the everything else in between, which is, watching video, watching games, watching film of themselves, uh, doing your sit-ups before you go to bed at night. Just there's so much that you have to get from the game to even understand it. Uh, and so I tell them they have to put in that time and that
Mm-hmm.
work, and it has to be first, or they'll end up last. It's their choice. It's their dream. You know, there's a lot of
Yeah.
parents out here trying to force it. If you're forcing it and forcing it and forcing it and forcing it, sorry to tell you this, but they may they may do well, but they probably will not reach the dreams that you have for them until they embrace it. And
Yeah.
they're committed, and you don't have to tell them to do it. If
Mhm.
anything, what my story was, I stayed in trouble from my mother. My mother didn't understand sports at all. She didn't get it at all. When I tell you at all. And she'd be like, get in here and wash these dishes. I don't like dishes.
I don't wash dishes. I'm trying to play
I,
ball.
yeah, I'm out here. I'm working on my game. She's like, what game? Get in. And my father would be like, leave her alone. She's working on it, And she's like, she didn't really get it. But if anything, I would get in trouble because there'd be days when she did do my hair and she just did it. And I'm outside and it's misty, it's raining. And I'm out there like trying to still please her. So I put a shower cap on my head. But I'm out there playing ball. And she's like, that humidity is just tore up all my work, So anyway, if anything, you'll get in trouble because I didn't know how to come back before it got too dark because I was still outside. Like that tells you who wants it and who's just talking.
Mm-hmm.
You'll know them by their work ethic.
Mm-hmm. For me, it's we talked about this in one of the episodes. It's two things. So one is always the people that when you go in the gym, it's how they start preparing. If they're shooting half courts, they make the ones. It's the ones that. No, go ahead.
The guys that all you see them doing is dunking.
Yeah, or trying to dunk.
You're trying to dunk. It's like, okay, I haven't seen you shoot a 15-footer. I haven't seen you try to get to the rack. I haven't seen you shoot your free throws. It's like, it's a lot of players that are caught up in, I mean, we know those guys, and you might be one of them. I don't know, because you seem pretty fly right now. But there's some guys. I'm convinced they only go to the Y because they want to sport their latest J's they went out and bought.
Yeah.
And they rock the Jordan shorts. I don't own a pair of Jordan shorts, but the shorts I was wearing, I'm here to play, But they would come in with the latest gear, and I think, are you here to play? Or are you here to be sharp and be cute and be flashy, So yes, you'll always know them by what they're actually doing. And I was never one of those type of people who got caught up in, as they say, the hype. I never just was that type of person that put like even my game on, how many times I could go up strong aggressively on one play or show out. I mean, I had my share of show out things, like I could paw the ball and mess around with it and do my little shakes. But at the end of the day, I believed in finishing, and that's why, out of high school, and every one of the records I do have still stands to this day that I am very proud of, shooting my senior year, 80% from the field. Who does that?
What?
What, right? And that's averaging 29 a game. So you have a lot of attempts. Yeah, I'm still making almost, it was like 79%, from the field. And like that's how much I believed in consistency and finishing. And I'm still that way in everything I do. If I am going to, take on any new job, like that's going to be my focus. Like I am one of those type of people that whatever I do, I work hard at it and I give it my everything and my full attention and my full focus. And because I want it to be great, whatever I do. And so that's why I shot 80%, because I wanted to be known as an unstoppable player, that it was difficult to stop me from scoring. Because if she catches it, she's going to score. Like there was nothing. That's what I wanted to have attached to me, that there's no way a person can shoot 80% from the field unless they work really hard, like all off season, out of season, like, and that was me. I always did my best to be at my best.
That's a key one right there. I Yeah, I can only imagine. Every time she shoot the ball, 80% of the times going in. I would get tired of trying to defend you. I'm like, look, we're gonna double team her. If we have to, we're gonna triple team her because she
I
ain't catching
saw.
this ball.
I think this is like I was having fun with you that you were my hype man to start the
Y-
show. At
Yeah.
this point, it would be nice if my father slid in as the hype man to my career because he would tell you, and that was 80% with two players always on her, with three players around her,
Oh
with
man.
them following her, she still was gonna score. Like he'd go all the way in about that. But yeah, that was my thing. That I just my game, for those unfamiliar, I was a type of player that I just used, like I said, what I had to get what I want. Like I told you
Hmm.
early on, I was made fun of for my size, but I was unapologetically big,
Hmm.
just with no apologies. Yeah,
Hmm.
okay, y'all can laugh if you want to. I'm gonna
You don't get
score.
this work though. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it to you. And that was my mentality. And another thing about my mentality, and I hope someone takes something from this. I never believed in beating you. My mentality was, I'm here to destroy you.
Mm. That's a
I didn't
big
say it out
difference right there.
loud. I didn't
Yeah.
say it out loud, but that was my mentality. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to just outscore you. I don't want to outplay you. I want to destroy you. I'm here to humiliate you. That was my thinking because I never wanted to be good or mediocre. I never wanted
Mm.
to be a person that I settle. I
Yeah.
always wanted to be one of the greatest to ever do it. That
Hmm.
was my dream. And so I still am that way in almost every aspect of my life. I'm now a parent. I try to do the same. Like I'm hands on. I get on the nerd because I'm watching. I'm like, what do you do? Like I'm watching everything because like I am determined to make you your best.
Yeah.
So make you at your best. But yes, when I played, I gave it my all, and I got the results because I put in the work. It's just the
Hmm.
way it is. And I tell a lot of people, for me to play uh, in the WNBA, and a crazy fact that I cannot wait to be taken down. 25 years later, I am still the only player from Fort Wayne to play in the WNBA. And we've had some great players who I know, my goodness, you know,
Hmm.
that I even looked up to that way before me. But
Yeah.
right now that's just the way that it is. But I so look forward to the day when that's not the case.
Hmm.
Because what good is it to have anything, and it's just like you as a becoming a father. Like the greatest moment of your life is when you'll see your son or your daughter do some of the things you did, or
Yeah.
they graduate from high school like you did. Like
Yeah.
that's the footprint. Like I can't wait for the footprint to be realized where I see, okay, I might have been the first one to do it, but this person not only was the second person to do it, she played longer. She had better stats. She did like that's what I look forward to seeing. And I can already see the light that is coming.
Yeah.
And I look
Yeah. I
forward
agree.
to it.
I agree with you, and I think it's coming. And I think once it does start happening, you're gonna start seeing more and more. So um, definitely, I tip my hat off
Thank you.
to what you have done,
Thank
especially
you.
both on and off the court.
Thank you.
And mentoring and just also just coming on capturing the game with us. And just
Yeah.
sharing these stories so far.
Yeah. And if I had a hat on, I'd be tipping mine off to all the great players who I played side by side with, um,
Hmm.
who I watched from Fort Wayne. And just there's so many players that I always say they were just a break away. They were
Yeah.
just one break away that it should have been, could have been, should have been them, as well. And that is also the one thing to take from me is that it's not just basketball. Like you got to be great in basketball, but you got to also be great mentally. You have
Yeah.
to also be a little lucky that you don't get injured.
Yeah.
Because I'm faithful, I do believe that You better hope you got a lot of grace.
A lot
That
of it.
God gonna a whole lot of grace. Cause some of y'all in college, I know you.
Yeah. Nah.
Yeah, some of the things you've done, it could have been worse, could have been you, but God kept you. But anyway, I did some things having fun in my college days, that I know it was grace. Just being a college kid. That
Oh
and
yeah.
it could have, drinking and all that kind of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
if something that could have been something bad that came from that, but it
Yeah.
didn't. And so you have to have some luck, a little grace, a little bit of the strength of your mentality, the work ethic.
Mm-hmm.
It's like stay healthy, don't get injured. Like there's
Yeah.
every variable has to come together to play in the WNBA. It really does.
It's almost you need a perfect equation to solve or to be able to get there. It's so
Yeah,
many different variables that go into place. I know,
yeah,
especially depending on where you go to college. Some places may be a little bit harder um, to stay safe, or even just
yes.
to just make through everything, especially the staying healthy part. You know, I know I had got injured in college, and I was like, yeah, I think it's a wrap for me, and I just
Yeah.
hung it up from there.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate. And I've seen that over and over and over again. For some people,
Hmm.
just maybe a torn ACL, but someone else just has a nagging ankle injury that it just
Hmm.
nags and nags, and they just don't really recover well. And they're
Hmm.
good, but they never get back to greatness. Like there are so many things that could go wrong, and it's just like you got to do your best to be able to navigate through those things. And that's not even to mention some of the environments that some of our children come from, where they got to pass the drug dealers, the gangs, just to get to the gym. That they got to be able to say no to that. Like there's so many holes. There's so many things that could go wrong, and that's why I believe that it's important when your listeners are listening that we all understand that it's not just the kid, it's up to us.
Yeah.
These children have to have a supporting cast. I don't make it to the league. You can forget any of this if I don't have parents who took me all across the country in AAUs, tournaments after tournaments to be seen. I get
Hmm.
invited to All American camps. There's so many kids that can't afford to run to Virginia, to play in Boo Williams tournament. My parents just on a dime. What? Oh, she's got invited to that camp. We'll get her there. Like there, everybody don't get that luxury.
Yeah.
But I also seen kids who don't have that luxury, who they hustle. They'll say, cash app this. I'm trying to go to this tournament. Excuse me, and they do what it takes to get there. And I have to make that point uh, clear that it takes a village. It takes a
It
village,
does.
and there's a lot of parents sitting at home just talking, and they're not supporting. They're telling their kids what they're not doing. They're very comfortable with that, but they're not uplifting them, telling them how great they are, how they can imagine them in the WNBA, how I know you're going to make it because you're excellent at everything that you do. We
Yeah.
don't hear a lot of that
You
conversation
don't.
from our parents, and we need to increase. So
Hmm.
you are what you think. My father told me when I was 7 years old that I was the greatest post player to ever play the game. When I was 7, I'll never forget
Yeah.
it. Then when I was 8 and I was playing, he's like saying, nobody can stop you. Nobody can. Go up. Nobody can stop you. They can't stop you. So when I played, I'll give you a good example at Purdue, when I played as a freshman,
Yeah.
they were talking about this freshman taking people by storm. And I played against these two All-Americans who were 6'7" apiece, that hyped the Gillingham sisters at Vanderbilt. And they
Hmm.
literally put 167 here, 167 here, and I'm 6'1". And I had 34 points, 13 rebounds with both of those players on me. Undersized, just went to work. And all the articles before that game, I'll never forget, were saying how, well, she's going to meet her match today. We got the All-American twins. Da, da, da. But what resonated with me before that game, my father told me then nobody can stop me. They don't know what they about to face in in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
They are gonna
They don't
have.
know. They don't
They
know.
are gonna.
They about to get this work. They don't know.
They are getting ready to be dealt with, okay? Because I'm the best. I'm the greatest in this post. I don't care what they say. They are all going to find out. I'm going to embarrass everybody that said anything bad about me because my daddy said that I'm the best, and I'm going to
Not
do
with the lane. My daddy.
My daddy said, and it stayed with me. And when you and then you add on top of all of that, my faith on 10, like
Yeah.
my father who says I'm more than a conqueror, that nobody, when I'm reading all these powerful scriptures that are telling me that, basically with him, all things are possible.
Mm-hmm.
So you're telling me it's impossible to outplay these twins? Come on. Come on. You're going to find out who I am and whose I am.
Real quick. Real quick.
And that's exactly the mentality. The mentality is what it's all about. Why I was able to have the level of success that I did. Because the cool fact about me, if you ever looked up my size, which I was embarrassed about, I struggled keeping it together. But I had times I played, 230, 240, 245. Like it's fluctuated. Then one time I got it down to like 210, 212. But I always played all the players I played up against, most of them were like 6'4", but 175, 180, or 6'5" and 165. Nobody was 240. And here I am, this big girl, and they're 6'5", they're 6'6", they're 6'7". It's like, how is she doing this? How is she scoring like she is and rebounding like she is? And it was always because I study and I believe in the details and the fundamentals. Ball go up, position here, get low here, move my body there. And the details. I paid attention to everything and I would try to outsmart them. So the things that I was not naturally gifted with, I took the time to make myself become. And that's what these young players have to get, that they're not going to be all going to be natural leapers. They're not going to all be quick, fast runners. But what they have to do is to find out where they can fit into the equation. I may not be able to run fast, but if I bump my player before I run down there, I'm gonna get there before she will, because I bumped her, So they have to learn the game and take the time to study the game, which is becoming lost. And I really struggle with the post play. Like it's hard for me to watch current basketball, and I say that I'm sorry. I have to be honest because they've really taken away the art of the post play. And when you grew up watching Charles Barkley and Karl Malone and Moses Malone, my favorite of all time actually is Hakeem Olajuwon. The post moves, the dream shake, and all of the things that he would combine, the score. And now the centers are outside shooting the three. It's like womp womp, So it's I had to grow with the game. But I do wish that some of us take the time to go back to the basics and get back in the post, find out what the art of that is and all the advantages that it brings. And to these small guards, at the opposite, actually, where you thought you didn't have to learn the post, things have changed for them. Like I said, in the opposite way. Like now it's all about mismatches. So don't think, oh, okay, I can shoot. I'm good. I'm going to the league. Look how well I shoot or drive. Because now they're saying, okay, well, let's see you in the post. Oh, but I'm a point guard. What are you talking about? No. But you're 6'1" point guard. So we want to see what you do in the post, because we're going to want to match you up with the 5'7" girl that's guarding you. And then people freeze like, what? I thought I was only supposed to. No, we want to see both, So all our players these days have to be interchangeable. They have to be able to shoot outside, play in the post, do it, play well at every single position. But when I played, it was just 5, you have your forward. You play in your area, and that pretty much was it. And you had those few special players in between who could play a couple of different positions. But I definitely want to encourage all the young viewers that's out there that they have to develop their game at every place on the floor, because that's just where the game has now grown to.
Yeah, that means more work.
More work.
More work.
More work.
But no, man, it's been so fun so far. But that concludes. We're gonna wrap up the first part of our podcast interview. So now we're gonna transition to our game within the game segment. So it's a little fun game that we play, and we have a scoreboard that we're gonna post up one day. Hopefully by the time this one airs, I probably said this about 5 times, but we're gonna have it displayed by then, just to show like just some of the different results and some of the people's reactions to different choices along the way.
Got me nervous. Okay, I'm ready.
But question is for you: are you ready to play?
I as ready as I can get. Got me nervous for the first time. I'm nervous. Let's go.
I think you got this. Okay, so first question is chocolate chip cookies or oatmeal raisin?
Oatmeal raisin.
Let's go. That's my choice.
Oatmeal raisin all day.
Okay.
All day.
TV shows or movies?
Woo, TV shows.
Any TV show you watching right now?
Well, it'll surprise you, but I love Atlanta Housewives. I love my drama. I love the drama. I'm sorry. I'm one of those people keeping up with all the drama.
There's nothing wrong with that. I'm sure. Look, I bet you ain't the only one watching it.
I'm sure of it. Like that's the show.
Okay. Your favorite top 5 in the WNBA?
Well, if I could combine them all, I would say Lisa Leslie, Tamika Catchings, Cynthia Cooper, Cheryl Swoops, and Diana Taurasi.
I love it. I love the list. I do. Okay. A favorite WNBA jersey or colorway right now?
Favorite WNBA jersey? I better say Washington Mystics. I better say the Washington Mystics, the black one.
Okay. I mean, that's still a good looking uniform, though.
Yeah. I gotta say Washington Mystics. Okay. Anything else, I'd look like I'm ungrateful.
Oh man. All right. So here's the next one. So you get a chance to take over any organization. Who do you choose?
Are we talking about sports organization?
It could be any organization. It could be sports. It could be Nike. It could be whoever you want to take over.
Probably be the NCAA. The NCAA. Okay. I would love to get the NCAA in my hands, and I think that what they finally committed to do this past week and allowing players to make money is a huge step for them to finally take. But I do think that they are still light years from where the things that they need to do right by these players who have worked so hard. You know, everybody's making money on them, not just in the money aspect, but just even in their careers after sports. The NCAA, there's so much more they should be doing for players and their mentality, just a lot of things that I think that they need to expand upon that they're not actually getting done to this day.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. There is so much more that the NCAA could be doing and should be doing, and I think it's only just getting started with the name, image, likeness that's happening right now. That's starting to unfold right now. So I think it's just getting started.
Yeah, I hope so. I think the pressure is finally caught up to them. I think that's what's making them move. They're watching all these other. Hey, they got to either they had to give. In short, they had to give because there was just too many other states saying not here in our state we won't, and we're going to pay these players, And that's what it's always taken, the pressure.
Mm.
You got to keep putting it on people, or people don't move. That's been the
Mm-hmm.
story of all our history in any area. You got to keep the pressure up.
I know that's right. But yeah, so final question is, where can people follow you on your career and keep up with you and everything that's going on?
Well, I'm simple. I'm on Facebook. Shoot
Okay.
me a friend request. What a lot of people wouldn't know about me, I'm big on my inboxes of Facebook. What I will do, sometimes, I surprise a lot of people. I'll just inbox some and I say, I love you. And some I just say, hey, how's your daughter doing? How are they
Mm-hmm.
coming? You know, and I try to keep a lot of connections more private, but I help always where I can. If people
Mm-hmm.
need a word, or they need a conversation, or they got a kid that's struggling, uh, they can always reach me on Facebook, and I will, even just message me, and I always get back to them and help where I can.
Amen. Amen.
And also,
You know,
they can
I,
email. They can email me as well at ladybarkley@yahoo.com. Something simple to remember. Lady Barkley at yahoo.com. Shoot me an email. Tell me what's up. Tell me what's going on, and I'll definitely help you where I can.
well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That concludes another episode of Capturing the Game Within the Game with Leslie Johnson. Super dope person to talk with. Just love. I'm looking forward to hopefully we can get you back on again, because there's so much stuff I really didn't get a chance to really ask. But we're gonna
So,
say this. We're gonna call this part one of a multi-part interview. So
well, thank you. You're a great interviewer. I appreciate you bringing me on. And as I told your wife,
yeah.
I've got a list of names I'm gonna be in contact with. I'm gonna see if we can get them on your show.
Okay. Hey, we're here for them. So anytime,
All
any
right.
day.
All right. Thank you for having me again.
Mhm.